but I suspect it doesn't take many industrial abstraction points to dwarf the number of public supply things, I would suspect. So I think agriculture is probably the most, and sits some way above the other two, and in that order.
And all the physical modifications to the stream, so that can include, impoundments, channelization, but also things as just drainage of the land. If you could rank them.
Well, agriculture is probably the greatest volume of unengineered alterations, but then the urban bit probably is greater impact from a smaller number, a big impact from a small number. So I don't quite know how you would rank those, but probably agriculture is the top one.
It's kind of how you think which impacts the water courses most significantly. So if
probably
you
agriculture.
Okay. And that's kind of big volume, but then small scale, isn't it?
Probably agriculture, and then I suspect forestry before urban areas, actually.
Yeah. In
that particular catchment. Yeah.
Any other physical modifications or any other uses that you could think of in the area?
No, I think that's probably the main ones.
And then next I've got a list of diffuse and point pollution sources, if you could rank them again.
Rural diffuse pollution is probably the top one. Where do domestic septic tank outfalls sit? Is that?
They would probably come into rural diffuse pollution.
Yeah, so it's definitely the top one then.
Yeah.
I would probably say that in that catchment, urban diffuse pollution will be further down the list. Land contamination should be further down the list. Wastewater discharges probably comes after rural diffuse pollution. Acidification.
So that's from acidic precipitation?
Oh, crumbs.
Acid rains.
Andy Miller, right. No, keep that one at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then the one that I would probably add in there is, and this might be included under rural diffuse pollution, but probably forestry runoff from forestry roads and accesses particularly. And I would probably put it just after wastewater discharges. Or on the same line actually as wastewater discharges if I had to pick.
Is there any particular examples where this was problematic that you could think of?
No, but I think it's quite a well understood phenomenon that the forestry, particularly felling works, does make a mess. And within a catchment, I think that can be quite significant at times when there's a lot of felling.
Yeah.
And I think that although it shouldn't really happen, and it isn't a frequent occurrence, I don't think that problems from wastewater discharges are a frequent occurrence either. They definitely happen. But again, they're not supposed to be frequent, so I would probably rank the two of them on the same level.
Yeah. Okay, and then in terms of invasive non-native species, are there any that we can think of that are particular problem in the area?
Giant hogweed. I think it's probably the main one now. A few years ago I'd probably have said knotweed. I think we do still have a knotweed problem. And I'm trying to think of the air. I think I do recognise that there's a lot of Himalayan balsam I see around, but I'm trying to think if that's specifically on the air. Must be. There must be some in the air. I've seen it in so many places.
Stick that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then lastly, do you think climate change has already had an impact on the catchment?
I don't think it would be possible to really answer that question. I don't know how we're quantifying climate change, and I think that if you ask farmers, they'll say, "Oh, it's definitely having an impact. It's definitely wetter. It's definitely," but that's because they're comparing, the last 10 or 20 years with the previous 10 or 20 years, which I think is quite a short time scale to start drawing conclusions. So I don't know whether it would appear we've had more mild wet weather, which will have an impact on the catchment because it will increase losses of sediment into the water and so on. However, whether that's climate change or whether that's just part of the natural cycle of weather, I don't know. We think things are so much wetter and milder, but then farmers will also hark back to 1985. 1985 was the wettest summer that we've had in a lot of farmers' living memory. And it isn't really that recent, so...
Yeah. Okay. So the next section, I've just listed a number of different impacts that... Just put it on the side so you can see them all at once.
Okay.
Impacts that may be felt because of the different pressures on the catchment. So for example, that overall, due to management, there's been a decrease in freshwater mussels and fish, or an increase in flood risk and so on. If you could go through them again, if you could delete any that you don't think are relevant for the...
I'm not an ecologist. I didn't realise we had freshwater mussels to start with.
Yeah.
So if they're in the air, then that's a surprise to me.
Let's take that out.
What does water security mean?
So water security is the ability of the catchment to supply water to the needs. So if there's less water in the catchment, then water security might go down. But also if the demand's up, that can mean water security is down as well.
I don't think there's a reduction in water security.
Yeah, take it out.
There might be increased water treatment cost, but I'm not clear whether that's because of the quality of the water in the watercourse or the standard that we expect to treat it to is different. Yeah. So... And again, I don't think there is an increased human health risk. I think that a lot of the regulation should be protecting human health. We don't discharge sheep dip into watercourses that people might paddle in anymore.
Yeah.
What's base flow?
So base flow is the amount of water, so the level of the river.
Don't think lower. That's reduced. I doubt it. Climate change resilience. What's that one?
So that's the ability of the catchment to respond to climate change, to respond to increases in temperature, or to respond to more flood water. Yes, quite a broad, fuzzy one.
I have no idea about that one, because I don't think that climate change resilience is directly related to the catchment. It's more it's more a feature of the individual businesses and the farm businesses that operate in the catchment, whether or not they are able to be resilient. I don't think that it would be. I don't think you could say there's a difference between one catchment and another, because